Welcome to the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, where knowledge meets financial freedom. We're here to break down the world of Bitcoin. No fluff, no hype, just real talk about how this digital asset is reshaping the future of money.
Other side of the planet.
Honestly, I was gonna say, I would imagine you get more people at like this time rather than an hour and a half.
This is prime time. This is actually prime time for the planet. 9 p.m. Eastern is the news cycle.
Well, it's 7:30 Eastern though, right?
Well, but my normal show is 9:30.
Your normal
is 9, and the best hour is right before that, and best hour is right before second, third best is right before that. So it's like 6, 7, 8, 9. That's like prime time,
right?
And then 9 p.m. Eastern is like the prime time of prime times. So
okay.
If I just had to pick the biggest market to just speak about Bitcoin, this is the biggest market.
Is that right?
Yeah, as far as the time. Now that's back. That might just be habitual because people are finishing up dinner and they're looking to relax before they go to bed. And the most influential populations are right there, New York. Now, of course, California is way behind that. But if you just study news cycles and stuff, this is a great time to push out live content. Now, if it's not live, then it don't matter. It's in a library anyway. But all right, so we finally got Adam O. We were going all over the place, and
that was my bad.
We made it. No, I think the first one was mine. So
no, that's true. Okay, yeah, the first one was yours. The second one was mine for sure.
Yeah. All right, so Adam, you have been I've already spoken a lot about you on my previous 2 shows that you are bringing stranded energy or wasted energy to the market and buying the most pristine digital asset ever invented by man. So tell us a little bit about that journey and how it got into that.
Yeah, I mean, not to reiterate, what people have maybe already heard and stuff, but I came from oil and gas. I was only in oil and gas for a minute before I found Bitcoin. I was in oil and gas just long enough to fall in love with it. And, I really fell in love with oil and gas because I understood quite quickly I understood what kind of risk upstream oil and gas producers took. Like it's pretty raw risk, right? I mean, they literally come together with a certain amount of money and it's like, hey, loan me $100,000 so I can go drill a hole in the ground over here. And I think I'm going to bring more than $100,000 of money out of the ground, like, it's like,
wow.
Like it doesn't get any more raw than that, like from a commodity standpoint. And sometimes you drill a dry well. Sometimes, you hit a well that produces $100,000 a year for 20 years. There's a lot of techniques in it, obviously, and a lot of nuance in between. But like I started to understand the risk on upstream oil and gas and what that looked like. I thought it was very entrepreneurial. And then I understood how petroleum, crude oil and natural gas were really the foundation of society, of the modern world. I remember my head blowing up, and this was after college, was the first time I considered and I'd learned that, more than 50% of a barrel of crude oil goes to petrochemical products, right? Like less than half of that barrel goes to fuel, like, butane and gasoline and diesel and HFOs and bunker fuel, whatever. So when I remember hearing that and I was like, what? So like, this is pre-AI, I guess. I kind of think of AI right now as like glorified search. That's kind of how people use it. It's like glorified search and like paragraph reconstruction. But, I remember going to Google and being like, what other things are made out of crude oil or petrochemicals? And it's like thousands and thousands, everything, every adhesive, every lubricant, every paint, every primer, every waterproofer, every, this winter, if you flew on a plane and they needed to de-ice the plane, guess what? Petrochemicals kept your plane. Not only did petroleum allow your plane to fly, but it kept it from freezing on its way.
Right.
rubber. At the road itself is a petrochemical. So like I liked working in the industry that was the foundation of all other industries, right? One, there's like a sense of security, but two, I just realized how vast and important it was. And there was a lot of signal, right? Like I could realize, if something crazy happened right now, like for example, if something crazy happens in the oil and gas industry, trust me, the markets will talk about it because it bleeds to every other industry, right? It'll affect shipping, it'll affect tourism,
part of everything.
Bingo. And so I really liked that. And I liked knowing the nuts and bolts of it. I had a really patient boss that sat down and actually taught me production accounting and how a well is drilled and what it's like to operate. And that was when I found Bitcoin. And I thought Bitcoin was a scam, or at least I kind of wrote it off as a scam. I figured it was a lot like World of Warcraft tokens. Nothing that is digital could be scarce.
Right.
And upon understanding, I figured that whoever was mining it was the ones getting rich at the expense of everyone else's ignorance. And so I set out to, one day I saw the mining death spiral article. This was like January of 2018, February of 2018. And so exactly 7 years ago. And I set out to figure out how it was produced, because I wanted to put my finger on the scam. Like I wanted to be able to point and say, like, yeah, this is how it's rigged. I could do that with fiat, right? And upon learning how thermodynamic law related to computer science, right? How you could not get a computer or a circuit to generate work or change a 0 to a 1 without at least a non-zero electrical input, right? Without a BTU of energy. I understood that this was a game that couldn't be unfairly gamed, right? Couldn't be cheated. And I knew
by the laws of physics is what you're saying.
Yeah, I knew that producing Bitcoin couldn't be unfairly gamed, because I knew that producing like a kilowatt hour or a BTU couldn't be gamed, right? Like, you might be able to get free money or something, but like actually generating an electron, like it doesn't matter who your friends are, it doesn't matter what school you went to, like, same thing with a barrel of oil. A barrel of oil is more than just a volume of oil. It's volume. It's actually a certain amount of potential energy. And so like the gravity, the viscosity of the oil, the richness of the oil matters, right? Not all barrels are equal, in fact.
Yeah.
And so, barrel of oil can't be cheated. I knew that. And so I understood right then that this was a fair commodity production game.
So how does it tie
to it? Yeah.
How does Bitcoin tie energy directly to the cost of producing that energy? So you're saying that those computers have to work hard, and to have that computer work that hard, it's going to draw electricity, and electricity can't be gamed.
Well, put it this way, like the computer doesn't necessarily have to work hard, but you have to do work. Right. You have to hash, you have to change zeros and ones. Right. And so there's no way to
do that for free.
There's no way to get a 0 to change to a 1 without at least some energy. Now you take like the most efficient computers and like the most efficient chips that we have today, right? The 3 nanometer stuff. And, you have it do quadrillions and trillions of trillions of trillions of computations of hashes. But if you take all the hashes it's done and you divide it by the amount, or you take all the energy and you divide it by the amount of hashes, it's non-zero. Right? Like even though it's approaching 0, it seems like to do 1 hash to change 1 0 to a 1, it's almost no energy, but it's
can't you make with the difficulty adjustment, can't you make it harder for the computers to figure it out?
Well, there's just, yeah, exactly. That's how.
So you can say that's step has 2. To take 10 minutes. And if you could do it in 9, it'll actually make it harder so that you finish solving a block closer to the 10-minute mark. Correct.
Well, see, that's what I would call step 2, right? So like I figured out that Bitcoin was fairly produced in the sense that you had to generate a kilowatt hour to participate, and nobody can cheat a kilowatt hour.
Right.
Step 2 is, well, is it sound money, or is, how do I know that over the next year I won't get debased, right? Like say I own 1% of I own 210,000 coins.
Mhm.
How can I be sure that some crazy powerful computer doesn't get invented and the supply just gets, ran up in the next 6 months and I get debased? Well, that's the difficulty adjustment. That's where that comes in, where, yeah, you can right now, if you added, 10 times the amount of computing power that's on the network, you'd be able to run blocks, and actually it'd be like exactly like 1 minute block times, but you'd only be able to do that for 2016 blocks maximum. Like, because every 2016 blocks, the network looks at the block time and goes, hey, the
That's
average
kinda
block
fast.
time, that's kind of fast. So we're, in other words, like say the block times were 5 minutes, it would go, hey, that's actually twice as fast as we want it to be. I'm going to double the difficulty, right? So now all your supercomputer that you just invented, like, yeah, you did get to run blocks for like, if you were doubling the network, it'd be like about a week if you started at the right time.
Right.
And then you're back to 10 minutes, right? Now you have to create another computer that's right. You have to do it again.
Right.
And so through the difficulty adjustment, I discovered that not only was this a fairly produced commodity, this is the first commodity where future production is predetermined
Mhm.
and mathematically guaranteed,
Yeah,
right?
and it's also
Within
works on the
some
backside.
margin.
On the backside too, if we lose a massive chunk of hash because a country just goes to war on it and starts destroying Bitcoin mines to hurt the network, then it can also make it easier to solve if a big chunk of the mining capacity gets, bombed or something.
Well, and the way I would say it is, by the same token, yeah, on the flip side of that coin is no less than X amount will get produced over the next year, and
Mhm.
no more than
Right.
X, right?
It's lost
So
in
I
time.
know I'm not going to get debased by more than this, but I also know I'm not going to get debased by less than this, right?
Right.
So, like, some people always are like, and it kind of depends on what you're talking about. When people sometimes say like Bitcoin is, sometimes people will say it's straight up deflating, and I'm
Mm.
like, well, as a currency, it's deflationary, but as a commodity, as like in terms of its supply, it's disinflationary. It's still inflating, right? Every
Mhm.
day, more new coins are produced, but at a marginally diminishing rate. In fact, every block is a lower percentage of the whole than the last,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
it's constantly dipping down.
Yeah, and so that's so that kind of attracted you to, I guess, go figure out how the mining
Sorry, did your internet go bad? Did mine?
is it not playing or something? Hold on.
It froze for just a second, but I've got it. I was gonna say I could turn. Let me try this. I could turn my Wi-Fi off. I'm wired, so I should be pretty good.
Let me see if that works any better. Okay. Can you still hear me good? I think I can hear you.
You got me now?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Are you good? Perfect. Yeah, I don't know what else. Might have been the connection. Might have been. Welcome to live broadcasting. Everything goes wrong.
No, it's good, man. It's good. It's kind of fun. But either way, no. So like, Bitcoin is inflating, but it's inflating at a marginally diminishing rate, right? So every time it inflates less than the last time it inflated, right? So, and that's on a per block basis.
Yeah.
I ran the numbers one time, and so I was like, okay, let's say on, January 3rd, 2009, when the first block was mined, what if I were to guess how many coins would be in circulation, and I think I did this like in January 3rd, 2022. So 13 years later. And I ran the numbers, and the reality versus what you would calculate on a 10-minute block time was like, it was off by like 2.2% total. That's pretty crazy, right? If you think about it, like I couldn't guess what the total amount, like what the total supply of oil production is over the next 13 years. Do you think I don't think I could guess that within 2%. And by the way, that the time in which I guessed, right, from the first block to January of 2022 will be the most volatile time. So guessing from 2022 to 2032 or 2035, it'll probably be less than 0.5% of margin, right? Like your guess will be off by less than 0.5%,
Right.
in terms of what you think the supply will be on a particular day in the future and what it actually ends up being. And that's crazy, because it's like the real comparison there is, how many dollars are going to be in existence this time next year, right? Let alone next month.
Right. Well, and,
Right.
and the only thing I think, energy is being pulled out of that system, but that actually makes it worse. That means that they have to print even more as more value is pulled out of their system. They need as much they need as much value creators accepting their currency as payment.
Right. It's a superpower with massive trade-offs, but the
Mhm,
trade-offs are slow to realize,
mhm,
and the pain is not felt for a long time, right? If you're able to create money at no cost, and everyone wants the money that you can create at no cost, you have a massive advantage over the rest of the world.
Oh yeah.
But that advantage, there is a sling back, right? And one of the biggest things is, and like, Trump pretty much ran on this for his candidacy. A big part of it was manufacturing. Like, you're never going to have the manufacturing advantage within the borders of the country that can create money, the dominant global reserve money, at no cost, right? It's called
Mhm.
Triffin's dilemma,
Yeah.
where it's always going to be cheaper for you to just create money at no cost and import goods,
Right.
right?
So you're
And
destroying
so,
your manufacturing base.
not directly, but ancillarily, yes. That's like
Yeah.
it's an unintended consequence of being able to,
Yeah.
just create
It
artificial
makes you an
value.
import. It makes you an import because you're going to buy things outside your country, and you've
The
got
base
things.
incentives are such that, yeah,
Yeah.
you're a better allocator of resources by just importing rather than actually,
Producing something.
producing, right?
Mhm.
The cost of production locally exceeds the cost of importing internationally or non-domestically. And so, it's not without pain, right? I mean, this fun thing about economics is it's never without pain, right? Economics is a science, much like thermodynamic law, right? You cannot cheat economic principle.
Hmm. But
There's no loopholes.
now, how does AI and robotics play into this when the person that can leverage the most AI and incorporate it into robotics starts to have, these which I think may have heard Jeff Booth talk about, that he works with a company that there are already robots, humanoid robots in grocery stores
Mhm.
that are doing everything. And then it's like, if America can keep that manufacturing within its borders and get to AI, super general intelligence first, and just hold that advantage, then I think, gosh, plus if they buy as much Bitcoin as they can, which that seems like it's on some trajectory to happen. And if those three things happen, and good luck unseating America. It's almost like the first one to discover 3 nuclear weapon type arsenal at the same time, between AI, Bitcoin, and robotics.
Well, keep going with that thought, because my pushback on that would be like, that's like saying, well, what happens when the United States is the first country to leverage this thing called the internet,
Yeah.
right? Can they hold it and keep it? It's like, no, they can't fucking hold it and keep it,
Well,
because
that's
those
what
robots, it's going to be cheaper to make those robots outside the country, and outside the
yeah.
country, they're going to get made, and they're going to be able to do the same shit they're doing inside this country for cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have this marginal head start, this marginal kind of jump, but it will not supplant the difference in the reserve currency value versus international currency values,
Oh, right.
right? So, like, it'll be cheaper to use robots here initially because here is the only place you can get robots.
Right.
But once here is no longer the only place you can get the robots to actually achieve the tasks, right? The technological advancement, game over, right? Now it's okay, well, robots here cost this much, robots here cost this much.
Right. Well, what I see is that
I don't know. I don't know if that solves it.
Well, I think the robots being here push us to the real race, which is who can scale up grid scale energy production fastest.
Bingo.
I'm like,
Bingo.
because even the
I'm gonna grab
robots,
a drink. I can hear you though. I can hear you.
I'm like, what are they going to want? They only care about one thing: electricity. They run on electricity,
power and energy. Yeah,
that's right.
And materials, which is, you know, materials like commodities like aluminum and, you know, zinc and all that is.
Brain is power hungry. You know,
no, yes, but like
AI is super hungry for power.
Oh, the AI, yes. Well, I mean, you know, I'm actually this could be kind of fun. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's listening to this, but like, I'm actually not a very big AI bull right now. I kind of view this AI game right now. Like, I kind of see a second internet bubble happening more than anything. I'm not sure AGI is achievable because, like, we kind of have to define that. And the way that I kind of hear it defined is like a super intelligence that's able to, in any given moment, understand the exact location and state of every atom in the universe. Like, that's kind of like have, you know, have ultimate predictability, right? Where you can, you know, you flip a coin and it like can guess whether it's heads or tails with 100% accuracy, kind of a thing, right? I don't think that's achievable personally. I think it's kind of a pipe dream. I think much like with the, you know, the internet, there was this a lot. I think there's a lot of over promising going on right now, and it's all because of the fiat game. Okay, this is my thesis. I'll, you know, and please push back on it.
No, I like where this is going.
If you find holes in it, please push back. I'd like to hear them. But the way I see it is like with fiat money, you know, we're not. It's no mystery, and it's certainly not a strange idea to understand that there's this massive monetary premium throughout equities, real estate, right? And it's because people can't just save their money, right? They have to constantly invest it to try to beat inflation.
They have to risk their capital.
They have to risk their capital, otherwise they're losing to debasement, to the creation of money. And beyond that, we have so that's one force that incentivizes a somewhat reckless allocation of resources, right? Like, no matter what, you're never incentivized to just save in the currency that you use. So, which is kind of reckless. Like, no matter, like, the second you get $1, you better put it somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, you spend it, invest it, whatever.
Risk it. As soon as you get it, risk it.
Risk it. Beyond that, the money printer funds a lot of inefficient uses of capital. I mean, one of the things I would argue is like, maybe a good example would be like, you know, Colorado's not a bad one, but you know, I work in the energy game, and you know, I see how much investment is going toward like solar and wind. And is that appropriate investment, right? Like, if you looked at the energy stack of, let's say, the state of Colorado, right? If to have the ideal energy stack, what would be the most efficient stack? I think it would have multiple, you know, different primary energy sources. Like, I think there would be some coal. I think there would be a lot of nat gas, maybe some nuclear, and I think wind and solar would be tiny. I think solar specifically would be at the consumer level. It'd be like on people's roofs. It would be at the point of consumption. I think wind would be almost non-existent, right? But guess what? Congress gets together and they put together the Inflation Reduction Act, and they set aside like $400 and something billion for renewable energy projects. And all of a sudden you get a ton of capital allocated to intermittent and unreliable power generation sources like solar and wind, not because they're the most efficient and they're the best return on capital because of thermodynamic law and because of technology, but because of the people that control the money printer are saying, hey, you invest in this and we're going to get you a return that's really attractive, right? So I would say that that's the incentivizing of malinvestment, right? And the money printer is great at this. Like war is one where like so often war doesn't need to happen. But when you have a money printer, what you end up doing is you have this solution. You need to go find problems to bring this solution in on. Okay. AI is kind of, a part of this, where I think like fiat money is the deterioration of fiat money is an accelerating force. Right. Like it doesn't slow down.
And it's not incrementally.
Exactly. It's not going to slow down. It's not like the degeneracy is not going to like take a step back. It's only going to escalate. People are only going to get crazier with their money. Real estate values are only, monetary premiums are only going to grow. They're not going to diminish. They might you might find these very, what I would call infrequent and short lasting periods where they're flat or maybe there's some contraction, but for the most part, it's expansion, right? What does Lynn Alden say? Like nothing stops this train, right? And so with AI, I see an immeasurable amount of capital chasing this idea, and they're out there saying it wide open. Like I think that douchebag from OpenAI, Sam Altman, whatever, Altman. He talked about a 15 to 20 trillion dollar market cap. Okay, literally, he said those words. Okay, if you think that being the first one to unlock AGI, whatever the hell that even means, is going to yield you a 15 to 20 trillion dollar market cap, you'll burn $1 billion a week for hundreds of weeks. And if on week 470 you achieve it, your return is like 300 to 1 or 30 to 1. Yeah, 30 to 1, right? Like you spent 400 billion to make 15 trillion. Like it's a no-brainer. I'd spend 400 billion to make 15 trillion. So would you, right? So it's like spending 400 grand to make 15 million. That's a kick-ass return.
But I think it's only I think with AI, it's winner take all. I think
that's how they're talking about it as well, right?
Well, that makes all of if you're the first company to achieve this and you've got 20 guys racing, it's winner take all. The others are made irrelevant. Like all that software, all those warehouses full of the first one to crack the nuclear bomb instantly goes nukes all the other science labs, and then they dominate.
How does it work with AGI? So let's play that out real quick though. So the first one to get to AGI, how does it destroy all the other people with shitloads of compute? Just nobody uses anything they're doing. Like their AIs are just like a Google, or like the Dewey Decimal System versus Google.
No, look at it this way. You've got 1 million chimpanzees, and then one of them gets human level intelligence.
Okay.
And they're all at war with one another. The human, if he can just not get stampeded, will win 100% of the time because he can just literally outthink every competitor. So it's like, how many lambs can you slaughter when you're a human and they just have the brain of a lamb?
See, that's simple. See, that's where I kind of get caught up though, because I think about this in terms of AI, and it's like, are we actually saying that like whoever gets to AGI first, the program itself will go out and destroy all of its competitors?
No, it'll just
say that it'll just render them obsolete.
Yeah, because what they will do is they'll be able to solve the problem for who knows, you can make up a number, 100th of the compute. So they'll have to pay their electric bill that's 100 times bigger than the efficient one. So it's all about efficiencies, is that if you can get super intelligence can literally solve the problem so much more efficiently that I think their electric bill bankrupt them. It's how long can they bankroll this thing to catch it before.
It's kind of my question there would kind of be like, well, couldn't the other people use the AGI to create their own AGI.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
At
really,
a cost efficient rate.
there you go.
Right. So like, these are the questions where I'm like, I'm not so sure, but I will absolutely submit that this is kind of the story being told, right? Like, it's like winner take all, the first one to get there. Now, by the way, I remember Zuckerberg said back in like October of last year, he said that it was like Q2 of this year, AGI was going to happen.
I don't
It was
think
like
these
Q2,
people,
Q3.
So one thing I don't think they're considering is, and maybe this is just my background of being a master electrician for 2 decades, is they're all going to hit a brick wall, and it's called, it takes time to build a gigawatt. And I don't mean a little bit of time. I mean, all hands on deck, everybody start building this. This is a national emergency. Go try to build 1 gigawatt of power, coal, natural gas. I don't care how you build it. It just takes time to build this massive. I mean, I live in.
Well, that's why they're
Louisiana.
gonna go. I mean, this is what's fun. This is how it really relates to Bitcoin. What's fun is all the AI guys. So if you're a Bitcoin miner and you're on the grid level, you're at the utility level, you're in deep shit. Okay, because all the AI guys are gonna come in
with bigger checkbooks.
Yes, like what I said, they're burning. They're okay burning $1 billion a week. And showing, and they have fucking nothing at the end of the week.
Right, nothing
they
at
just
all.
Theoretically might be closer to this
made progress.
This finish line that nobody knows where it is or when it is. But if they're the first ones there, it's winner take all. Like, it's like this. Like, so like the guy from Microsoft came out recently and said that they found a new state of matter. Okay. He didn't talk about how it would apply to solve any human problem. He talked about maybe how like it could be an exponential increase in the amount of compute in your hand. Okay. Like efficiency. Okay. But again, no human problem was solved. No, like, feed the hungry, desalinate water, cure cancer. None of that shit was mentioned. Like, I feel like time's going to go on and investors are going to come back and they're going to be like, hey guys, like, you're burning $1 billion a week. The fuck are we doing? Like, what do you got? And then slowly these guys are going to be like, well, we've rethought our thesis on AGI, but with all this training we've done with these 17 or 1.7 million H9 GPUs, we think we could create a pretty cool dating app. Like, and then we might be able to monetize that. Like,
what
I think they're going to
efficiencies? Like, have you used it in any? Have you used it in any capacity to generate revenue recently?
AI?
Yeah.
No. So this is the thing is I work primarily with oil and gas producers, educating them on why Bitcoin is a technology that is very near and dear to them. They should learn it and understand it. It's a pragmatic way for them to monetize their own hydrocarbons, right?
Yeah.
Primarily nat gas. Now, believe me, and this is only going to get worse. So many of them call me, well, what about AI? Can I run an AI data center? No, you can't.
No, you need like hospital grade power. This is no like stranded power.
You don't want to, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't invest in it. You need, 3-4 orders of redundancy, Faraday cages, the capital intensities, 25x. You need fiber. If not fiber, you need low Earth orbit satellites. You need the most intricate freaking networking you've ever thought of. That's where, now if you were that's where on the grid, all these guys are going to be able to build that out really quickly, faster than they can build a new nuclear power facility. The one really cool thing that I do love about this is all of these tech bros have thrown their environmentalism just right out the fucking window. Right? They honestly, they don't even like wind and solar anymore. They're talking about like re-energizing coal plants.
Yep.
Right? Well, we could do it in a way. It's like, it's because you never gave a shit about the environment anyway. You were just fucking chasing subsidies, man.
Right.
It was just part of your subsidy narrative, part of your ESG investment portfolio bullshit. It was a LARP.
Yeah. Now it's AI. It's
now that they need AI, it's like, oh shit, let's fire up some coal. And I'm like,
fire up some tires.
I'm like, yeah, we should. Now you guys actually see, because you want a gigawatt of power. Guess what? The easiest way to get there is fucking coal
Yep.
right? Nat gas isn't bad either, especially if you've got nat gas infrastructure in the general vicinity.
Oh, just come to Louisiana. We got so much natural gas out of here.
Bingo. Bingo. And it's so
literally
energy dense and it's
oozing out
so
of the
fucking
ground.
clean, right? But like literally you're talking about a gigawatt, you can erect like and there's already some, 500 plus megawatt coal plants that have been shuttered that could be turned on in like 20 days. Like 20
Yeah.
days of some work going,
Yeah.
right? A brand new one, maybe 16 months.
Have you
Right?
heard
You want
of
a
anything?
gigawatt of nuclear? 9 years?
I heard Trump say on the campaign trail, because anytime he would say anything about Bitcoin, crypto, energy, my ears would peak up because I'm hoping he can just take the regulation off of just making energy. Like if he could just unleash the American.
East of the Mississippi, he can do a lot because that's all BLM, Bureau of Land Management, federal stuff.
Yeah.
West of the Mississippi, the states have a lot of say, but he could encourage them by taking away federal funding for things unless they, just lessen their permitting requirements.
Well, he
like
may
Utah,
just unleash the capital
Colorado.
markets. He may just say, we will give you 0% interest money to go build. We'll give you negative 5% interest money if you build a power plant.
Well, that's subsidy, right? That's the same thing. That's subsidy.
Yeah. But
China's
not favorites, not just literally electricity is the qualifier. I don't care if you build a coal plant, natural gas plant.
I like that better
butterflies. Who cares?
I like that better than most. China has been doing this for like 3 years
Oh,
now, where they
God.
do not just 0% interest, they guarantee the loan if you're building a coal plant.
Nice.
The Chinese government will guarantee the loan. So those banks were calling their friends. The banker calls his brother, "Hey man, you need to start a coal power plant company. I can write you a $1 billion check today, $1 billion loan. And even if you don't fucking succeed, the government's going to back my loan. So my bank isn't going to feel any pain." Yeah, the Chinese government's been doing that for like 2-3 years now. And you're damn right we should be doing it. Like people don't know this. China generated more electricity than us in like 2013 is when they crossed, and they've only been widening the gap. Now on a per capita basis, they haven't beat us yet, but they're gonna. They're on the pathway to generate
when do they
more
cross
power.
that?
I think it's like 2035.
But still, they already, as a country, they are now making more than us.
Yes, like
Holy cow.
They passed us over a decade ago.
Okay, so for everybody listening, that is a huge deal. That is, if they used to say it's not how violent the army is, it's how much can their government spend to feed them and keep them engaged. And so if you can't feed your army and you can't give them ammunition, then they'll die of starvation. And so, electricity is very similar to food and ammunition to an army. If you don't have the dollars and you don't have electricity, that's a problem. If you're fighting someone that's got 3, 4, 5 times the electricity as you.
Well, and like it just everything is downstream of energy and power. Now, energy is different than power. It's like very important to
explain the difference.
Well, so energy encapsulates power, right? Energy is like gasoline in my car, right? That's energy.
Power is electricity, is what you're saying.
Power is purely electricity.
Yeah.
Right. And so and by the way, you look at global energy, okay? I mean, I posted this the other day. Global energy, fossil fuels are about 76% of global energy consumption.
Well, they're like 100% of transportation. I mean, for now.
Well,
and now 33% of all energy.
And in the year 2000, it was like 76.8% was fossil fuels. In the year 2023, it was like 76.4.
Wow.
Okay, we moved half of 1% in 23 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Net zero ain't fucking do anything. In terms of electricity generation, China produces more than double the United States.
Golly. That is a lot.
When it comes to electricity, China produces like like 9,500 terawatt hours.
That's what it takes to organize their mountains into Walmart shelves.
The United States produces like 4,500
Yep.
terawatt hours. So we're like 47% of them. Now they have like 8 times the people that we do. So they've got to, but here's the thing. Like I said, they crossed us like 10 years ago. They're now double power production of us, right? And in one decade, they went from equal to us, double to us. So how about another 10 years? Now they're 4 times us?
Mm-hmm.
So in less than 20 years, they will cross us in per capita. So it's like maybe it was 2040, 2045 when I looked at when they'll cross us on
I
per
think
capita.
they have such a population decline though. I think they're going to be around 850 million.
Oh, that's to the advantage of the per capita stat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then you're going to have half the population having 5 times the electricity as us.
I mean, it's
going to make them even stronger.
Right. Now, if we talk about energy, like if we go from the basis of BTUs and
who produces the most? Now,
China.
But America's heated and China's not heated.
Yeah, but they still produce.
Here.
You got to remember, they're producing more than double the electricity of us.
Okay.
Right. So that alone is a lot of energy. But like they measure it in like quadrillion BTUs. And from what I remember, China's at like 130 quadrillion BTUs and the United States is at like 105 quadrillion BTUs.
Well,
so they're not much above us, but they are above us.
Yeah.
When it comes to petroleum, like
they travel way more efficiently than us. I mean, they use motorcycles like it's going out of style on little small cars, and everybody in America drives everywhere.
They have 10 times the fucking people.
Well, they do.
Like 7 times the people. And so, they consume a lot. And like that's the thing. Like, even though they have full cities that are only electric car and only electric everything, but it's all powered by coal plants in the surrounding area, right? Like, I mean,
we'll solve the coal plant problem later.
They build like 2.4 industrial scale coal plants per week.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they built 104 between 2022 and 2023.
Wow.
So there's 52 weeks in a year. 104 is exactly 2.
And that's what they have is coal. That's
if they don't have the nat gas that we do, they import some nat gas. So it doesn't make sense for them to build it. Like they have some nat gas, but not like we do. Like we have nat gas for centuries.
Yeah.
They have coal, but we also have coal for centuries, and we're shuttering all our coal and not even building nat gas to replace it. We talk about maybe doing like some solar and wind to replace it, and then we end up getting around to solar, which, by the way, China makes all the fucking panels. They get rich while we build solar. Yeah. And when we build solar, we have to back it up with nat gas anyway because it's unreliable.
Right. Yeah, right? You got to solve that battery problem, and I don't know that they'll have enough lithium ramp in time to get the
industrial batteries kind of suck. Like economically, they suck. It's better to just oversize your power generation and mine Bitcoin than it is to have a smaller power plant and a bunch of batteries. Yeah. Like it's better to be like, oh, well, the town, this surrounding area, if everybody turned on all their heaters, all their ovens, all their everything, the peak load would be 10 megawatts. Let's build a 50 megawatt facility and we'll mine Bitcoin with, 45 megawatts most of the time. But then even if there's a freeze or something, man, we got that's the thing about Bitcoin that's so awesome. It incentivizes us to overproduce.
Yeah.
Right. It gives us an economic means to justify overproduction, right?
And
produce way more than humans need.
Right. And it's a much more mathematically predictable how much energy you're going to need to run this mine. Like you can look into the future.
Well, you can justify overbuilding, which takes away the variable, right? It's like we don't know how big is the population of Dallas going to grow over the next 20 years. Well, does it really matter if we generate 100 times more power than we need?
We'll figure out a way to use it. If not, we'll strap Bitcoin
Right.
behind them all.
Exactly. Like, well,
Worst case scenario,
we'll put it this way: like,
Bitcoin mines.
we've got enough power for the population to 100x, right?
Yeah.
And then, so as we start to get to 100x, then we should start talking about maybe, building another power plant.
Not to mention, the people that buy power plants are so creditworthy. It's like a city, a tax base is saying, can I get a loan on building this power plant or helping?
Yeah, typically, I mean, like Texas is one where it's like it's a very open market. ERCOT is, I mean, it's more open than any other market in the United States, from what I understand. And like, you can just go build a power plant if you want and start providing electricity and power to the local area, like, interconnect with the ERCOT system. And I'm sure you'll, like, depending on where you're at and what you're willing to offer your power at, like, people will take those electrons, at least to some, during certain times and things. And so
we got 25 cities in Louisiana.
The bottom line is, no matter the primary energy source, whether it's, like, I personally think that we should be throwing 10 times the investment at coal, nat gas, and
I think we're going to have to.
I think nuclear should actually, like, if I were to kind of like, if I were to take a guess at what I think the ideal stack is for the United States, obviously state to state, really, it does change quite drastically, I think, for many reasons, but the majority of investment should be in nat gas and coal, like, call it 60%. Then maybe there's like 20% and 25% in nuclear, maybe 10% in hydroelectric, and then the remaining is maybe some solar and a couple of wind turbines if you're in Iowa or like North Dakota, where there's no people and a shitload of wind. But they're so, like, when wind turbines without subsidies, they never fucking make any money back.
I don't see why they.
I mean, the amount of resources, it's a scam.
I think nuclear, if I just look at it, and if it were unleashed without all the red tape, to me, nuclear just has to get rid of its red tape. With the red tape on its back, it's just go.
I'm not a huge fan. I mean, nuclear, at the end of the day, though, much like wind or solar, it is a product of hydrocarbons, right? Like, you can't build a nuclear facility without a robust petroleum industry, right? The concrete, the steel, everybody coming to work, right? Like, all the people commuting,
transportation, everything,
like mining, mining the uranium, transporting it, refining it. Right?
How about heating? That's an oil industry. I mean,
well, no, but I mean, if you, like, with enough electricity, you could have electric heaters, right? And so, but like the actual nuclear facility, the thing that's like taking the uranium in and stuff, like, it's all supported by petroleum, like the uranium itself, right? You use petroleum to go mine the uranium and to transport it. A lot of it's in, like, the Congo and shit. And then refining it from U-235 to U-237. And, like, all that is a very petroleum intensive process. But also, I'm like, and I'm no physicist by any means, but, like, I think about at least fusion, like nuclear fusion. And it's kind of scary, right? Like, what if there's runaway, right? Because when you have runaway, like, we will turn the planet into a fucking sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
and there's no way to extinguish it.
There'll be no regret because it'll happen instantly.
No, I don't know if it'll happen instantly. It'll slowly just be growing, right? I mean, instantly. I mean, in the grand scheme, it'll be instant, but I don't think it'll be like, you spray water. Like, right now, if you, like, took a hose and, like, sprayed water on the sun, it would just make the sun grow bigger. Yeah. Okay. Right. Like, the sun would just take that water and burn the shit out of the hydrogen and the oxygen.
Right.
Right. Same thing with, like, so I'm the kind of person that I'm like, hey guys, I think we have enough hydrocarbons to fuel humanity for probably another, like, 500, maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000 years. We have no fucking idea how many hydrocarbons we have. Why don't we, like, get desperately close to using all of those before we risk turning the planet into a sun? Like, how environmental is it to turn the fucking whole planet into a sun and destroy the species?
Well, didn't there science behind that the Earth is actually making hydrocarbons, that it's the
Yeah, I don't.
pressures of it
It's
is
not
boiling.
dinosaur bones.
Yeah, like it's
It's
actually
not
the earth is
dinosaur bones.
fueling, like it's a
Yeah,
product of the
I mean,
core.
no, I think it's a total valid argument. I think there's more CH4 than there is like O2,
Hmm.
right? Like I think there's more methane than oxygen on this planet. I mean, carbon and hydrogen is methane, and carbon and hydrogen are far more abundant than oxygen.
Hmm.
You got to think about it. Think about all the water on Earth, right? That's dihydrogen monoxide. That's H2O. There's literally twice as much hydrogen for every oxygen in all the water on Earth, right?
Hmm.
And there's, by the way, there's more groundwater on Earth than there is water of all the oceans.
Really?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's a fun fact.
Yeah. In the crust and beneath the crust of the Earth. Yeah. So like, there's so freaking much hydrocarbons, and like natural gas is the one specifically where it is so clean. I mean, burning it just makes carbon dioxide and water
Or even
so clean.
how about not geothermal? I think there's there's Aztec drilling
I
technology.
think geothermal can be pragmatic and efficient alongside or after the fact of drilling for hydrocarbons. So you drill for hydrocarbons, you produce that well for a decade or whatever. You can then use the energy, the energy that was expended and the cost, the capital that was expended to drill. If you can now leverage that vertical well to access geothermal pockets, like it's one cost,
Right.
multiple.
How far can these wells go
returns.
now? Are they still around the?
Oh shit! There's so many wells. I mean, like I know there's some wells here in Colorado that touch like the Codell sand. They're like 7,500 feet, 8,000 feet. It's like a mile and a half.
Okay.
And then they're a mile lateral.
Yeah. So you can drill a 2-3 mile deep hole without anything super special.
I don't know about two. I don't know if there's any wells that are like beyond 12,000. There might be. I'm not a.
That's right at the 2 mile mark.
Right. Yeah, that's that's a little bit beyond my at least my depth of knowledge. I guess literally and metaphorically. But I know that like 8,000 feet isn't crazy. Vertical wells, like it's not even insanely costly with the technology we have these days. I mean, it's wild what can be done.
So when are you seeing the big checkbooks in the oil industry, in the energy industry, start to see Bitcoin for the opportunity to them specifically that it is?
It's starting.
Because that's what I've always thought. When the power inside the energy, like the human capital, the human brain power, the decision makers, when the decision makers of energy start to understand Bitcoin, they're like the bottom
they're getting
layer.
there. They're getting there. So like I mean, I've talked about this often where if you look at it in terms of scope, like all the Bitcoin mining rewards right now, every day, right? We're talking about like new coins plus fees. We're like at like 470 coins a day or something.
Right.
Like that's like under $50 million a day, right? So it's about $18 billion a year. I mean, $50 million a day to some of the oil and gas companies is a joke. And that's if they had 100% of all mining was them. It wouldn't even be the biggest part of their business.
Wow.
Right. Well, you got to remember, like people talk about big pharma, right? Big pharma is like $900 billion a year as an industry. Oil and gas is like 4 trillion.
Wow.
Like oil and gas does what big pharma does in a year. Oil and gas does it in like 90 days.
Is there a bigger industry? I think energy is. If you look at revenue,
I think there is. Hold on. I think the auto industry's it's up there. It might be oil and it might be energy. Oil and gas specifically.
Yeah, I think if you just put energy as of the 100 trillion produced every year,
Yeah,
I
it
think
is. It's oil and gas by revenue.
by revenue.
Yeah.
What
But
sector?
oh no, I'm sorry. So oil and gas is, it kind of depends. So oil and gas is right up there with health. Health is if you put health and like health insurance and all health into one bucket,
Bucket.
it's right there. It's in the like the 3.5 to 5 trillion.
Mhm.
Global automobile sales is freaking huge.
I thought it
Like
was two or three. Shoot,
no,
I mean,
no, it's like 4. Yeah, it's like 4 billion. And then
4 trillion.
global commercial real estate, and then oil and gas. They're all like right at 4.5 billion.
Mm.
So now
Trillion.
global like car and automobile manufacturing is like 2.5 billion, but automobile sales includes new and like used,
Yeah.
right? And I think that also includes like, auto parts and maintenance and shit like that.
Yeah, all things transportation.
And then wireless telecommunications is, a 2.5, 3 billion. Like big pharma doesn't even crack the top 20, I don't think. But oil and gas is like, I mean, when if you run the numbers on that, like if the oil and gas, upstream oil and gas exploration is $4.5 trillion on an annual basis, what is that like?
$1 trillion quarterly. That's
It's
300.
12. It's $12.5 billion a day.
Wow.
Right. Like I just told you, all Bitcoin mining rewards for the next year is like 16, 17 billion.
Yeah.
It's a fucking day to oil and gas, right? It's like
one day in oil
right.
and gas.
So like that's part of it. It's one of the reasons I think that it's one of the objective, I guess, arguments for why I think Bitcoin will be priced at millions of dollars a coin is because
100%.
like the amount of energy that would love a non-zero market and how this will integrate, the amount of people that need a means by which to store their value through time immutably.
Yeah, and this thing can go to the power.
Yeah.
You can literally drop power plants inside the coal mine, inside the gate.
I mean, you can sell
power.
you can sell power over the internet, and
Yeah.
there's not even a buyer, right? Now the rate's non-negotiable, but it's non-zero. Like I think these grid miners, like some of these mega grid miners, are in for trouble, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, all I think about is like my oil and gas customers are kicking their ass, and they're gonna kick their they're like, I got oil and gas customers right now that like are ecstatic at the current returns, and hash price is like at an all-time low, right?
Wow.
Like it's never been more competitive. Like the guys on the grid right now are like, depreciation is just crushing them.
Now, who's
right?
noticing this? Like, are people starting to move?
They're noticing it.
To Colorado?
Well, no. I mean, like in oil and gas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oklahoma. I mean, Texas has been awake to this for years now. Wyoming's no stranger to it. I've got a customer
who's waking
20
up
minutes
in
from
energy
me.
and Bitcoin. Like, who are the biggest Bitcoin energy states or regions?
What do you mean? Like, who are the biggest states that are mining? Like the states that are mining the most Bitcoin?
Not just that, but like for the stranded energy.
That's an interesting question. For the stranded, I mean, Texas is got to be up there.
Here's my question.
But a lot of that energy isn't like behind the meter. A lot of it is like permissioned grid power.
Yeah.
Like riots.
Energy. I'm not talking about like a Bitcoin miner wanting to mine Bitcoin. I'm talking about an energy producer wanting to use Bitcoin.
Yeah, so I'd say like Texas is up there just because they got so much flare gas. Like, natural gas prices in West Texas go negative like every day.
Yeah. Like an energy guy is not a Bitcoiner, but a Bitcoiner is an energy guy.
See,
you
have
to be an energy guy when you're a Bitcoiner.
Right. But see, this is the fun part is that like I spend my days with oil and gas producers.
Yes.
And I educate them why they're in a better position to produce Bitcoin than anybody. I enlighten them to the fact that they're going to learn Bitcoin way faster than Bitcoiners are going to learn oil and gas.
Yes.
And they are.
Amen
right?
to
like,
that.
They are. Like plugging, like I tell them, I'm like, mining Bitcoin in the oil field, 99% of it is keeping an engine running. 1% of it is knowing these computers. Like,
yeah,
we can teach you these computers. You'll figure that shit out real quick. It's the engine and they're like, oh, I know how to do that already. Like, we run compressors all day. We have mechanics on staff, right? So like they're already the best Bitcoin miners. They just don't really know it, and I get to kind of enlighten them. Where is a lot of it going to happen on nat gas? Oklahoma is going to be huge. Texas, like I said, is already big. Pennsylvania is going to be massive. I can say this because, you know, Bob from Barefoot shared it publicly a week or so ago. You know, Barefoot has been diversifying, and they're looking at natural gas. We're building them a couple of megawatts of Bitcoin mines with nat gas engines right now.
Congrats. That's big.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're great guys, right? Like it's funny because like about a year ago, I was sitting on a boat on a yacht after mining Disrupt with Bob, and him and I were just shooting the shit. And like, I just told him, just, you know, I was just talking like I do. And I was like, man, I was like, what I would do right now, I was like, if I was on the grid mining, I would go out to like the Marcellus in Pennsylvania or out in Oklahoma, and I would find some of these wells that are either shut-in gas wells or stripper oil wells with some gas that are underpriced, and I'd buy them at a discount, and I would generate my own power and mine Bitcoin, because all these guys at the grid level are going to get kicked to shit by AI. Like the price, they're not going to be able to compete, right? What the AI guys are willing to pay, Bitcoin miners will not be willing to pay. And from a regulatory standpoint, it's really defensive to be in the oil field monetizing that which can't be otherwise monetized, or that which would be wasted. And you're going to be so far ahead of the Bitcoin mining, like from a you know, skill perspective, from like a, you know, experience perspective, being a miner that's already been operating, you know, using engines in the oil field and mining for like 2 years, come the year 2026 or 2027, like when everyone's getting kicked off the grid and you've already been doing it for a couple of years, like you're going to be able to raise capital when every other Bitcoin miner can't.
Yeah.
I said this to him and he went and did it. Like, I don't know if he took the advice from me. I'm not so
was planted.
I mean, I think maybe I helped plant a seed, or I literally told him something that he was already doing, which could have just, from his perspective, would have been funny. But he called me like 8 months later and was like, we're acquiring cheap wells. We're getting our own gas. We're going to generate our own energy and produce our own power. And, you know, he was here in Colorado. Bob was just last week at this conference, and he made I put the quote on Twitter, because he said, he's like, there's two types. Yeah, he said there's two types of miners. He said there's wild miners and there's, you know, like domesticated miners, and he's like, the difference is whether their power is permissioned or whether they're generating their own power. And he said the wild ones are the best ones. And he's absolutely right. Like the guys that have a permission, that are permissioned, I think they're in for tough times ahead. Now, that being said, the Bitcoin price could make tons of bad mining decisions look great, right? A whole bunch of inefficient Bitcoin miners could look like geniuses if price just rips, right? So that's the one where, you know,
I mean, because we've got the capital markets that are waking up finally to this asset, and they're just buying, and they got pretty cheap access to money.
By that logic, you'd be a fool to not have 5 or 10 Bitcoin mining machines in your garage, even if they're not plugged in, because you are going to want to wait. Like when the day comes when it's $800,000 a coin overnight, even if you're on 15-cent power, plug those fucking things in. They're making 80 cents per kilowatt hour, right? And if you wait for that to happen before you buy the machine, the price of the machine is going to take into consideration this new Bitcoin price. So like, by the way, this has always been my thesis that I've had since 2018, that from me and my dad, I was like, Dad, I think we should always have like a petahash or more of mining infrastructure, like computers on hand. Even if
petahash, how many miners?
It's 1,000 terahash. So like, you know, 7 or 8 miners, could be as low as like 5 miners with some of the newer stuff today. That's 200 terahash.
10 miners for every home.
Yeah. Like, I mean, well, like I look at it like that,
by the way,
because I was like, in a way, it's a way to put a ceiling on your DCA, and a ceiling on the price of your DCA, right? You wake up one day and the price goes from $150,000 to $600,000 a coin. Well, even though your power is not cheap, you can plug in these miners, and you're mining at $300,000 a coin, right? And the market price is 600. Well, you're DCAing it at a 50% discount off market, right? Like those machines are. That's what these machines are.
You don't need super efficient machines. Then at that point, you can get.
Well, that's my point. Is like if the price runs hard enough, you fucking turn your laptop into it. Like if it runs hard enough, S9s will be profitable, beyond profitable again. Like that's what happens when Bitcoin price runs. Everybody plugs in fucking everything because it's like I mean, we got to 42-cent hash price. That would be one of the S19s making like $40-$45 a day. That would be the S21s would be making 2.7 times that. So that would be $108 a day, right? On like 80 kilowatt hours, right? So even if you have 10-cent power, 80 kilowatt hours means you're spending $8 a day to make 105, 108. Like,
yeah,
you're 10xing your money every day. So you're spending, $240 a month to make $3,000.
And that's happening when I'd say I have done before in this cycle. We're not even at close to the top. I don't think.
But we're at the bottom. Like we're at the absolute freaking bottom of hash price. Hash price, because we just had the halving, a year ago, not even less than a year ago.
So this is the bottom of the hash price.
We're at we're at 5 point. Oh, well, we got lower. I called the bottom actually. I called 3.8 cents and we hit 3.8 cents, 3.7. I put out a tweet. I was like, because we were at 5 cents and everybody was crying, and I was like, this isn't pain yet. Pain is 3.7, 3.8 cents, and we had that happen actually.
When was this?
There. Wasn't that like what, July of last year? When we came back down to like 40, like we came back into the 40s.
Yeah.
And it was pain, like at 3.7 cents, guys were hurting. And like you'll see consolidate, like I think the biggest miners are the most likely to consolidate, the most likely to like get bought out or merge with other big miners and stuff.
Yeah.
Because those swings, it's the small gorilla, like the guys that I have in the oil field, they're not watching hash price. Like certainly if they're oil and gas producers, they're not. I mean, this guy I've got in Colorado, we just delivered him a unit. Literally, it landed today. It's like his 6th or 7th unit he's bought from us. He has to do something with his gas, or the state won't let him produce his oil.
Yeah.
So he actually has S9s and M29s out there. Like he plugs it, like, because he got them for free. He got them for like $5 a machine, and he's like, and so the Bitcoin is just like, he would run a generator and just run the
electricity
a waste
into product. The ground. For these guys, it's a waste product. It's a useful waste product.
Like he would just run the electricity into the ground if he had to. He just waste it, right? Just to not flare the gas.
Right.
But monetizing it is just, pragmatic, and it costs that you still have to buy the engine regardless. So you might as well buy a couple computers and, make money out of it. And so, like, how do you compete with him if you're on the grid?
Well, like, I think you should state that one more time, that Bitcoin is what, 12 billion?
No, it's like $17 billion of rewards a year.
A year. And oil spends that daily? Close to it?
Oil and gas is about like $13 billion a day.
Right.
Yeah. So it's about 1 day of oil and gas is about a year of Bitcoin mining rewards.
So do you think if
globally, obviously,
right.
But Bitcoin's global. So
and that there's so much friction and loss and just inside this massive industry of oil and gas that Bitcoin's not even a rounding error. It's like a rounding error of a rounding error.
It's a rounding error. I mean, it's a joke, right? So like that's why they're not. That's why you don't see these big public, they're not coming in. They're not going to come spend gajillions of dollars and do it now. But they are keeping an eye. They understand how it does apply, and that it is an energy game. They're no longer fully ignorant. I think they're still quite skeptical, but they're coming. Like the publicly traded oil and gas companies are tinkering. They're tinkering.
Now, do you think what Saylor is doing is I feel like Saylor is just smacking this sleeping giant, like just giving them a nut shot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if you wake up these capital markets and they see what you're doing, like they can just flinch in this direction a little and boom, 20 Michael Saylors.
Oh, and the upward price slippage is infinite, right? Because I mean, price can slip upward.
Like Apple,
people always talk about, they're like, well, with the cycles and the 4-year cycle, because people just get chart dumb because they like forget what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's really all about like, they're trying to temper their emotions, but they also want to get rich. And so like, I like to get real humble, throw all that shit out the window. And I just think to myself, like, this is a commodity humanity has never dealt with before. Like it has characteristics humanity has never dealt with before. Never. Right. Like, it could be $2 million. Yeah, $2 million a coin tomorrow. It's the only commodity where like price could go up by 20x tomorrow. The exact same amount gets produced.
Right.
Every other commodity, if it went up by 20x tomorrow, coffee, salt, aluminum, everybody would start producing it, and that would put downward pressure on the price. Right. The only downward pressure that could come from the price going 20x is people going out to the market and market selling. But guess what? For them to market sell, there has to be buy orders.
Right.
So that's not necessarily downward pressure, right? So it's a lot from a marginal supply standpoint. Humanity's never dealt with this. There is no top. Okay. There's no bottom to how much fiat gets created. There's no, I don't think anybody's appropriately priced the monetary premium in real estate and equities, certainly not in bonds. The 4-year cycle thing will break. Yeah. It will not be, we will not have this. No, there's going to be a breaking point where everybody looks back and it's like, and by the way, it'll be, when it happens, everyone will act like it was obvious. Everyone will be like, oh, well, yeah. But it's like, motherfucker, like for 3 years, you were posting your freaking, your plan B stock to flow nonsense.
I think it's going to be faster than the horse to car, which was 13 years. When you started seeing these cars and it just rockets. But what people don't understand is it's not a $1 trillion phone industry that Apple was consuming. This is a $900 trillion thing that's being, because this is all asset classes, all store value.
I mean, it's the utility. The utility this tech provides is the storage of value itself.
Yes.
Right. It's not something that's super useful, like transporting people or letting people communicate. It's allowing people to store value through time immutably and without fear of debasement, and transfer value through space immutably, right? Like that.
All stored value. All stored value is the addressable market.
I don't know about all stored value. Like I don't think 100% of all value on Earth will be in Bitcoin.
No, but that's the addressable market.
I would say like the addressable market is all savings value. So like pension funds, but like if you have you might want to grow a company, like you might want to have a shitload of guns and ammunition, right? Like I'm somebody that I like buying ammo as a savings account, right? Because like ammo doesn't really go down in price. It does a little bit, but not, it holds its value. It's a lot like a, bullion. And like Bitcoin doesn't make me want to not have some ammo, like there's a utility aspect there, right? And same thing, like, but I think,
but now you're not buying the stored value, you're buying the utility. So everything else will have only utility value. It's going to strip stored value out of all value. So
that's what I would say. Like that's what you say, stored value. I say like savings, right? Like its addressable market is the value. All value on Earth that is trying to. Yeah, it's all value on Earth that's trying to make it to tomorrow without going to shit.
Right. Like the value of a steak of red meat in the market has a utility value of nutrition to the consumer.
Right.
So I don't see people investing in steak. I think they're going to say
no, and even like I would say real estate. Like real estate's a consumer item. I mean, so many people own 8 houses and they don't demand 8 houses. What they demand is a place to put their money where it doesn't go to shit.
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Right. That's
coming out
monetary premium. Yeah.
I would not want to be a real estate investor right now.
Again, like the velocity of fiat diminishing,
mhm.
we don't know where we're at, right? I feel like we're in like late stage fiat, but late stage could be 25 or 50 years. I don't know. Will it ever go away? I don't think it will. I think that fiat will exist. It will just be so grossly diminished and like I think it'll take generations, right? It takes like my nephew who was born, he's never been in a world without Bitcoin. Right? Like when Bitcoin has existed from your entire life, you kind of get to this point where you're like, why would I ever want to use dollars? Like, you know what I mean? Like that has to like happen for a couple generations, I feel like, before the dollar really loses. I mean, they put so much into that psyop. I mean, you and I both know, as much as we're Bitcoiners, like if there's a big ass roll of $100 bills with a rubber band around it sitting on a table, it catches our eye and
I know.
Our blood pressure goes up.
Well,
right?
just
like
and dollar derivative.
We are brainwashed. No, just seeing it. Like a stack of $100 bills on a table gets an emotional reaction out of you. Even though you and I both know it's bullshit that was created at no cost. Right? Like we are brainwashed, and that programming is so deep.
Yeah. We want to consume, we desire things, we just want to consume. Like we've been trained to just eat like all around us. And
I think
Bitcoin says, well, now you got to give up something that you value. Not
well, again, it's pure. It's like it's like back to economic harmony, where like you can't cheat the economic game, where you get to have your cake and eat it too, like these central bankers have, and the amount of grifters. The closer you are to the money printer, you get to siphon off of the productive, right? You get to be unproductive, but you bask in the rewards of the productive within the same marketplace. Like that's got to go away. There's a moral argument there, and it's why I always tell people, like, getting humble and killing your greed is the best. Like it's the best thing you can do for yourself. Just to take on this human experience.
I agree.
You got it. Like, and Bitcoin really helps you.
The less you
helps
need,
you do
the
that.
better. Like when you become efficient.
Because in this fiat world, there's never really enough, right?
No.
When you start going down that, I mean, that's why we saw this crypto dude like committed suicide on a live stream, man. Like, like
like as if your life is not more
fiat shit,
right?
Like that's not the problem. That's a symptom of this late stage fiat shit where people, like even Dave Portnoy buying all these random meme coins and shit. Like it's all late stage. You can just put your money anywhere and it beats the dollar. Like we can just put it into vaporware coins on a network that's centralized. It's rolling back the Ethereum blockchain because of the theft. Like all of this shit just feels like it's accelerating, right? So like I actually expect more insanity. I expect real estate insanity. Like this is what they're gonna do, Craig. They're gonna tokenize RWAs, real world assets. And the fucking speculation will be unlike anything you've ever seen.
Well, I'll be sitting back in one asset and one asset only.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm not going to participate, but I'll troll them. Some people will get rich, probably. It'll probably be the people that help facilitate, I mean, as if a token actually gives you 1/10 ownership of that apartment building, dumbasses.
No.
Oh my God, these people. But it will allow you to speculate in that apartment building on the other side of the world.
Here's the deal. When all theft has been drained away, and and not all, but a significant portion of the global value is now unstealable, then the thieves are going to rip apart whoever's left holding the bag of property that can be stolen, are going to be the only people left to steal from. So if all you know how to do is steal, and you've gone from having 100 houses to rob to 2, guess which 2 houses get robbed 100% of the time? They take all that value. And so if you can't protect your property, then
you're toast.
It's going to get taken. All property would get taken except the one that can't be taken.
No, you're right. That's a valid point.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go meet this beautiful girl. She's texting me.
Man,
I was supposed to be there at 6:45. I'm already
you
10
better
minutes
get
late.
running. Well, thank you so
Yeah, I
much,
gotta
man.
run. No, it's okay. She's super sweet. She knew I might go long, and she prepared for it. So,
Well, good luck.
thank you for being flexible, for having
Yeah,
me on.
man.
This is always fun, man. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah.
And I think we should at least do like twice a year. Like we should check in 6 months because
Absolutely.
we've got some fun stuff going on at Upstream. I'll have some really cool videos here in the next, like even just in the next week. We're finishing our first 325 kilowatt hash gen.
Yeah.
And we're building a whole shitload more. And we're Barber just signed the lease on our Casper, Wyoming manufacturing facility.
Yeah.
So we're coming into the US and manufacturing a whole bunch here.
I'll check in with you late summer and we'll see what's going on then.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe we even do something fun where you fly out and we go to an oil and gas site and
I love it.
like check some stuff out. I've got one near the airport here in Colorado, so we could definitely do that.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live. Awesome.
We'll go live.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
All right, man. Take care, Adam. Thank you. All right. So that was Adam O. Love that guy, everything he's doing. I love how he talks about the energy sector, how massive it is. That I haven't run the math, but I think if you do, what is it, 12 billion, maybe $20 billion worth of Bitcoin will be mined this year. And that is like one day and a half of what the oil industry produces. And so there's such a massive gorilla in the oil industry that has not yet noticed that they are in the prime position to just mine. And here's the thing. I don't think I don't know. It's definitely for sure. They have not woken up to the fact that for the first time, the customer can come to you. So that means now whoever owns the coal mine, the land, like whoever has the mineral rights, can just build a power plant inside the gate and just mine Bitcoin. And so there's no transmission lines. There's no trucking of the coal all the way to the coal plant. There's no transportation costs. It's literally, you just burn the coal, pump it into the generator, mine Bitcoin. You've never left the gate of the coal mine. And so all these energy owners, the owners of the oil, the owners of the natural gas well, the owners of coal plants, the Bitcoin miners are about to come to you, knock on your door and say, hey, will you sell me that coal? And I'm going to power this C-can of Bitcoin. They're like, sure, we'll take any customer we can get. And the fact that I don't have to pay transportation costs for my coal, that's a bonus because usually that comes out of the cost. And so I think energy is going to be a big, interesting equation. I think we need to talk more about energy. We need to, because Bitcoin is an energy network. I think that's something not said enough. Remember, Bitcoin comes at a cost. That's its superpower. Its superpower is you can't just take it. You have to work for it or you have to buy it. And if you buy it, you bought it for somebody that worked for it. And what do I mean by work? Real work. You can't hack the kilowatt. Like there's no kilowatt hack. We've been trying to make a kilowatt of electricity every way possible, from damming rivers to nuclear reactors to wind and solar to natural gas to coal to burning anything. And it's just work. That's it. The laws of physics say that you need to do work to get a kilowatt. And the kilowatt is tied to the proof of work and network, which is Bitcoin. And you can only mine Bitcoin with Bitcoin miners, with hash power, with compute. That's the only thing you can mine Bitcoin with. You can't mine it with anything else. You have to plug a computer. That computer runs on one thing, electricity. So it's an unhackable system. Like there's no way to game it. There's no way to cheat the system like in fiat, where they can just print money, they can manipulate a market. Nobody's manipulating the kilowatt. There is no government, there is no power that is going to just manipulate the kilowatt. I mean, maybe there's some science experiment that's getting ready to just pop and all of a sudden energy is just free. But until then, we've got, I mean, you got the renewable people betting on solar and batteries. You've got oil and gas that's, trillions of dollars. You've got power producers. You've got nuclear. You've got everybody producing to make the kilowatt. And there's only higher and higher demand. So because Bitcoin is really an energy network, it's a network of all the ways to make energy. And Bitcoin pursues it as the necessary ingredient to feed the computers that are mining the Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is time. So if you say, well, what supports Bitcoin? What backs Bitcoin? The hardest thing on earth, the kilowatt. The kilowatt backs Bitcoin. For those of you that want to know, here's the answer. Repeat this, cut it, Chris. You need to make this a short. What backs Bitcoin? The kilowatt backs Bitcoin. There's no cheating on the kilowatt. You have to make it, you have to produce it, and boom, it's gone. And now you got to make another kilowatt. And however you made it, I don't care if you had to mine coal, if you had the natural gas, if you had nuclear, if you had wind, if you had cow farts, it doesn't matter. It's still work. And you got to keep doing it. That Bitcoin miner has a never-ending thirst. And the day you stop feeding it electricity is the day it stops mining. And now it's just an idle computer asset. So I think it's going to be the most secure network we've ever had because we've never had one bound by the laws of physics. You have to do work. It's a non-zero cost. Everything else, there's a way to hack it. There's a way to manipulate the market. Good luck manipulating the energy market. Good luck manipulating the kilowatt. I'm not saying you can't get involved with powers and stuff and suppress certain things, but kilowatt's kilowatt, and Bitcoin mines are very transportable. They can fly anywhere. They can they just need the size of a sea can. And you can mine a lot of Bitcoin with one sea can. I think 250, 300, maybe even 400 miners. So anyway, great show, Adam. Thank you so much. We had to come a little bit early for this. We had to start our show a little earlier than normal. Normally we start at 9 o'clock Eastern, and now it is, this is 8 o'clock. Oh, my time in New Orleans, in Louisiana. And so this is usually when we start the show, but we've been going at this for an hour and 26 minutes. So I will see y'all here again tomorrow. I should be on the road in Texas. I am heading to a Parks and Rec convention. I do another podcast for Parks and Recreation. Is a real passion of mine, and I want to help tell that story. And I've got some really good content creators, videographers, distribution people that are working full time with the Daily Bitcoin podcast and the Daily Parks and Rec show to bring quite diverse content. But I can tell you, if you're a Bitcoiner, we should always be bringing new people to Bitcoin. And one of the reasons that I really care deeply about the Parks and Rec community, they've been close personal friends of mine, but these are people that work in small local government for your city, right? Keeping your parks going. It's a nice big population. It's about 300,000 people nationally. And I'd say a lot of them aren't really familiar at all with Bitcoin, but they're very open to it. And it seems like every time I'm talking to somebody, I tell my story about how I got into the Daily Parks and Recreation. And I said, well, I first created a community in Bitcoin. And I discovered my passion for creating media and getting messages out, crafting messaging, and building community and building up on different websites. And I just fell in love with it. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I found what I want to do. And so, but I noticed that there was a ton of people telling the story of Bitcoin. There's a lot of great content creators. Just type in Bitcoin and you find unbelievable YouTube channels. There's podcasts. We're just one of them. If I had to guess, there might be 1,000 globally, media companies, guys in basements just talking about Bitcoin, Discord channels, Skype threads, Telegram groups. I think I said podcasts, X lives, lives on Facebook, lives on, you got Instagrams. Like there's Bitcoin's knowledge and wisdom just being pumped into the world. There are a bunch of lunatics, and I'm proudly one of them. But in Parks and Rec, 100-year-old industry that has been creating great parks and spaces in our communities and making playgrounds for kids and grandkids to play together with their grandparents, and for little league baseball, and for learning how to swim, and for having gorgeous parks in our communities that just make it a cool place to live, right? All of our communities have parks and rec departments, and they're doing so much stuff. Nobody's telling their story, and they're 100-year-old industry. And I'm like, well, guys, it looks like the Bitcoiners are completely fine. I'm a drop in the bucket over there, but these poor folks over here are doing amazing things for our community that we live in. And I want to go to, I've fallen in love with storytelling. They have an amazing story to tell. The Bitcoiners community has amazing stories to tell. And a lot of them are paying attention to the Bitcoin community. And I think everyone should. I think Bitcoin is for everyone. It's not just for one population or the other. It's for people that want to hold on to the wealth that they've worked hard for, people that are against theft in all its forms. So if you are against theft in all of its forms, Bitcoin is the thing for you, because it stops theft dead in its track. And that's one of its superpowers. It's unconfiscatable. I'm not saying you can't leave your password out, okay? But as far as all the different ways that you can be scammed out of your own money, Bitcoin, just with a little bit of knowledge around operational security, you can secure your capital really well. Something I said yesterday, you remember, we were talking about how Bitcoin is transforming the world. It was more of a philosophy day yesterday. And a lot of people say, how does Bitcoin endure all these storms coming its way? And I'm like, Bitcoin is not enduring the storms. Bitcoin is the storm. It is the storm ripping through the asset classes, ripping through trust, ripping through energy networks, all types of identity. People in the identity business, the trust business, violence business, security business, storage of wealth business, transacting, moving energy from one part of the planet to the other. I think I already said the energy business, but we'll say it twice just because of Adam. So those are all the addressable markets of Bitcoin. And by the way, it can't fail like a human-run company could fail. So at the base layer of a company that's being run by men, the geniuses, the CEOs, the leadership at the top could just get old and die. It could just retire. It could get bought. It could lose to competition. Bitcoin has no CEO that's masterfully pulling all the right levers, and he's a genius. And gosh, if we lose him, who's going to lead our company? And if you look at companies like Apple after Steve Jobs, if you look at Ford after Henry Ford, if you look at a lot of the great companies were so powerful because they had great leadership. But great leadership doesn't last forever. And, you can't go up forever in leadership. Eventually, sometimes you get somebody that's not quite as good as the previous leader. And that's when, Bitcoin doesn't suffer from that. It's a decentralized open protocol. It's just a protocol. It's just like a language. Like English doesn't have a leader. Algebra doesn't have a president of algebra. So if you think of ideas, Bitcoin is just an idea. It's just code. It's just a language. Codes, languages, ideas, you can't stop them. They're not even like forces of nature. I mean, go drop a bomb on algebra. Somebody blow up arithmetic. Somebody go shoot physics in the leg. Bitcoin's it's pretty much the same thing. It's just language. It's just code. And code and language can traverse freely from ear to ear, from eye to eye. And you don't need permission. It just works. The laws of physics don't ask man for permission to work, and neither does Bitcoin. And so, super powerful thing I have discovered for myself, and I'm proud to spread the message. If you haven't discovered it, look into it. Well, I got this great book right here, not mine, but I was reading it before here. So, Lynn, awesome job. I love this book. It's a quick read, and she uses tiny words, lots of pictures in here. So y'all should finish it in the night or two. unless you're like me and read pages and then forget completely what you just read. So you have to start over. But I love it. It's a good nighttime read. The kids will love it. The wife will love it. Read it at your birthday party or any types of celebrations. It's just fun for the whole family. You should read this as a bedtime story to your children. They'll love you, especially if any of it sinks in. So anyway, I will be here tomorrow, 9 p.m. I've got a couple of guys that are signing on. Wednesday, we've got Ahmad Amus that is coming. He is a doctor that wrote a great stuff, a lot of work on the carnivore diet and on sunlight and its health benefits for you. So don't miss that. Tomorrow, I'm just going to come on and pick a topic and maybe a page out of Lynn's book or some of these others that I'm reading and just give my thoughts on that. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining me tonight. Appreciate you. Love everything you had to say about energy. Thank you so much for enlightening me, at least. Guys, I don't know if y'all are getting anything out of this, but I get a ton out of it. So at least I'm getting smarter, and hopefully I can share that with y'all, or maybe put smarter guys than me in front of y'all so I can learn from them. But I will be here again, 9 p.m. Eastern, Sunday through Thursday, the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. Thanks a lot, guys. Craig LeBlanc signing off. Love you. Bye.
Inflation is stealing your purchasing power, but what if there was a way to fight back? Enter Bitcoin, the digital currency that empowers you to take control of your wealth. Ever wondered why your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to? At the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, we educate, inform, and inspire. From expert interviews to breaking news, we bring you everything you need to stay ahead in the Bitcoin community. Market updates, expert insights, real-world use cases, and practical tips to navigate the Bitcoin economy. So whether you're a seasoned Bitcoin investor or just getting started, this is your daily dose of Bitcoin wisdom. Don't miss out. Subscribe now, hit that bell icon, and let's break free from the chains of inflation, one Bitcoin at a time. The Daily Bitcoin Podcast, your gateway to financial freedom.